do look a lot younger in that photo, but that was just a year ago. But being a startup founder definitely ages you. Thank you for having me today. Really appreciate being here. I'm just going to sort of unwrap my vision for the future of computer-AI interaction. In the middle, there'll be a bit of a sales pitch, but at the beginning and at the end, we'll be looking at the overall landscape and the general picture. You're probably thinking, who am I? Founder of Yepic AI. We have over 1,000 customers. We work with the US government, with the Veterans Authority. We work with Dubai Tourism Board and numerous companies. So we're 4.5 years old. We've been at this for a while, building foundation models for video generation. So how many people here have typed to ChatGPT in the last 12 months? Show of hands. That one gentleman not raising his hand, please leave. This talk isn't for you. How many people have spoken to ChatGPT? About half the room. How many people have had an experience where ChatGPT didn't quite understand what you meant? I think that's everybody, right? In today's landscape, AI is always depicted as this unemotive, unemotional being that looks like us, that sounds like us, but doesn't really have humanity's best intentions at heart, because it doesn't have empathy. It doesn't understand what it means to be human. But what if this changed? What if AI could be empathetic? What if AI could truly understand the human condition and communicate with us in a way that a human would? First of all, we have to very quickly look at how we got here and how we've interacted with computers. You know, from punch cards to keyboards and mice, it's always been very action-driven. We produce an action, and then we get a response. And the graphical user interface, especially the smartphone, the iPhone in 2007, changed that completely. A completely new interface for interacting with computers. And it opened a pathway to personal computing like we've never known before. The App Store and everything that came with it just brought a whole new type of utility that nobody had known before, unless you're a BlackBerry user. But a very different type of utility. And chatbots equally have brought a new type of utility. When they first launched back in 2008, they were not very useful. Chatbots were very unempathetic, very pathway-driven, not like LLMs today. And the next stage after that was voice. Everyone praised voice as, oh, this isn't hype. Voice is going to transform the future of human AI, human-computer interaction. But most people were disappointed. The early versions of Siri and even Alexa and Google Home today are slightly underwhelming when you compare it to LLMs. LLMs really are changing the game. And I don't need to tell you guys that because everyone in this room is probably here for that very reason. But the interesting thing is multimodality. We're moving from a text-based interaction interface to this modality phase where machines can see, they can hear, they can understand, and they can relate one modality to another. And this really is unlocking so much value. And the next phase is interactive AI, where we can talk face-to-face with these systems, and they can use their ability to see the world, to understand charts and graphs, to then be part of our workflow, and to work with the human workforce that runs and powers so much of the world today. Moving to an immersive future where people speak face-to-face with AI. And I really do believe that this thing is just so huge that it's going to touch every single industry. Like 90% of customer-facing knowledge worker roles could be replaced in 15 years. This has the potential to transform every sector of society, every industry, from self-driving cars to shops. And Gartner thinks this is a $125 billion industry. All of Gartner's competitors think it's much bigger, between 500 and 600 billion. And if they're right, if this grows at 47%, which is like the average every year for the next 10, 15 years, this will be bigger than electric cars, bigger than cloud. It'll be huge. It's going to touch everyone's life. And by 2026, Gartner also thinks that half the people in this room that are working for corporations will be in market to buy digital avatars for their company, to talk to their customers, train their staff, to engage with the world, and to extend the message, brand, and mission of the company beyond its walls. In any language, anywhere in the world, in the most culturally, locally appropriate way you can imagine. And I think the second one's a bit obvious. Like CMOs, the marketing potential here is huge. So if this future's coming, the question we're asking ourselves at Yepic is, how do we build a humanity-first AI that truly understands what it means to be human, that can engage with a person one-to-one in the same way that a person could? That means listening, understanding when someone stopped talking. That's a big thing with these chatbots, understanding when someone's mouth is closed and when they've finished saying what they've said. And then the second part is understanding the sentiment in their voice, understanding the expression in their face. As humans, we do this on autopilot every single day. But ChatGPT today, even with the audio version, doesn't do this. It doesn't factor in any of the emotion behind the conversation. And the second pillar for us is edge-based. We built the world's smallest model today that runs at like a very, I don't know how much it runs at, but it's an extremely low cost. And the model, by the end of the year, will run locally on the new Samsung phone. And we actually have a partnership with Samsung in the UK, and we'll be rolling that out, like, hopefully at the beginning of next year. So like locally on your device, you can have the Google Nano LLM, which is already available, and you can have a face and a voice. Complete game changer for human-AI interaction. And then the third pillar is, and also, sorry, the edge-based pillar is really important because it's about privacy. I don't believe for 1 minute that OpenAI should be accessing the world's emotional states and every word that we utter to an LLM. I think that these words we utter, how we say them, should remain local on our devices. They should be our property, and we should decide what big tech gets. And the third is API-driven utility. Like, it's not simply enough to have an emotive assistant, friend that we can talk to and relate to. They need to be able to go out into the world and change things in the real world. 84% of the world's traffic is API-driven. So there needs to be a bridge that connects these agents to the world's APIs so that they can actually do things on our behalf.
AI is incredible, but it's not perfect. We've all asked a question and not had the response we wanted. There's always something missing. AI has grown from action to emotive interaction. It's evolved from typing to talking, text-based to face-to-face, and will be your first choice when you need help. Real human conversations with AI.
With Video Agents by Yepic AI, you change the game with your customers. We're here to be the intermediary between them and their problems. From life coaching and personal training to teaching and customer support, for live news, governing a city, or helping people get around town. Expertise at your fingertips in a form that won't frustrate you. Text describes video elegance.
Yepic's real-time, lifelike digital avatars aren't just the next stage in AI, they're a huge leap into the future. They are designed not only to help, but to react to your needs with our new cutting-edge technology. Body language, tone of voice, emotion, and we'll only keep innovating in the future. Sign up today for the latest updates and instant access to our API. The only thing missing from AI is humanity. Video Agents by Yepic AI.
This is a really great report for anyone that hasn't seen it. It's Accenture's Life report. It delves quite deep into this topic, and it looks at the future of consumer trends. And I think it's pretty obvious anyone that's experienced ChatGPT and has seen it grow over the past 12 months from 3.5 to 4 is aware of the huge ramifications this has for our life. And the expectation of customers is rising at a rapid pace. So let's take a look at the different elements that make up these intelligent agents. Obviously, the first thing is the avatar. So let me just go into that quickly. This is a campaign we did back in November with the government of Oman. It was the world's first AI election campaign, where every hour we were rendering thousands of videos in 2 minutes to give every single person in the country updates on what was happening in every single region. So there was complete transparency across the country about who was voting for what. And it was the highest voter turnout they'd ever had. Obviously, it's not a democracy like America. This is for the Shura Council, for the King's Council, elected people by the public, from the public to advise the king. And this happens every 4 years. It's the closest thing in the country that they have to the presidential election here. And it was actually the highest ever turnout they had for an election, because everyone could vote on their phone, everything was digital, you verified your ID with NFT and facial tracking, and our company was very privileged to be part of the whole process, and to basically build the interface for tracking the results with Oracle. And highest ever voter turnout of women, highest ever voter turnout of disabled people. Really did change the game. And it was very simple back then.
In elections, voting percentage of age group 61 to 70 is highest in Wailea Upman.
So this was happening in different languages, and that's just from one photo. So we were brought into the campaign a month before, and they said, we just want to have different characters, and from one photo, we were able to make these videos in, we did it in 6 languages, so that international community could also observe, but it could have been in 100 languages. Another example, you'll see on the left here a version with just one photo, and then a version with 30 seconds of training video, the second one being our new pipeline. This was in Saudi Arabia last month. We were at Leap Festival with this really cool influencer called Quebocop. We were brought in 4 or 5 days before the event because a very big brand name that you'll probably know couldn't deliver the real-time avatars to the quality standard they needed. So we stepped in, they flew over the team, it was really incredible, and it was featured in Wired, and it was really great. But I'll just show you a quick video clip from that.
At Leap 2024 in Saudi Arabia, we had the great opportunity to collaborate with a YouTube legend. Using our new generative AI technology, he could interview himself.
More about how you've really evolved over time as a content creator.
I started off playing a lot of video games with my friends, and throughout the years, then I feel like I wanted a bigger challenge, so I started focusing more on innovative technologies and innovative ways to tell stories. For example, by uploading myself and doing an interview with myself.
I hear that the passion for gaming fueled your journey into content.
So that was being done live on stage. There was no magic. Everything was being done live. Based on what he was saying, the avatar was answering in a really expressive way. And now this is an example of what we can achieve with just 30 seconds of training video. Again, this is instant. You give us the training video, and 1 minute later, the avatar is good to go.
Lara Croft has been named the most iconic video game character of all time to mark the 20th BAFTA Games Awards. It's been 28 years since Tomb Raider introduced gamers to Lara, and she's changed quite a bit in that time. She's gone from being very pointy and childlike and drawn to very filmic, says Shelley Blonde, the actress who voiced the original Lara. The character beat the likes of Mario and Sonic for the title in a poll of gamers.
So what's happening here is the eyebrows are being animated in real time based on the sentiment in the audio. The head is moving in real time based on the sentiment of what's being said. And I think, I'm pretty impressed with this. This isn't the production version yet that's going to be available to all our customers, but this is just the rough cut. And to do this in real time with a very small GPU is quite a feat. And again, the plan is to have this working locally on a smartphone. And one more example, again with the new pipeline.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this new video on dots. I'm in my usual studio, but not alone. This time Marco is with me. We're going to review options, dots in general. We've done it in webinars before, but we're going to do it again today.
This is an example, again, of just 30 seconds of training video. And there is a loop here, and the lips are being dubbed live, but we can also take an existing loop. So we can either automate the loop, or you can give us a piece of footage that represents the character, and we can essentially dub it in real time. So I think that's enough videos. We don't need AI Oompa Loompas.
Ladies and gentlemen, coders and debuggers.
Super. The use cases are endless. Our main focus is learning and development. We're seeing a lot of our clients already use our platform to make training videos. And I guess the workflow is you make a training video, you give the video to your staff, maybe you personalize it with the API, maybe you don't. And then your staff go away, they click through, they don't really watch the video, pretend they did. And then you can actually test their knowledge. You can put them in a live situation with an angry customer, and you can see how they respond. And you can give them 3 minutes to calm down Karen, and 3 minutes on an angry Karen, for example. Other use cases we're seeing are compliance in finance. There's a huge requirement in the UK under FCA rules to explain an insurance package. You need to make sure the person you've sold the insurance packages to are aware of what they've purchased. We work with Lloyds TSB Group on this. They sell microinsurance to farmers in India and Africa, and a lot of them are illiterate. But having a video with an avatar talking to them and going through the details of their policy and what would be covered and what wouldn't is a game changer for a bank. And you could never, ever do that at scale. And imagine having a call center that anyone from India, Africa, and all these places with different dialects could call 24/7. It'd be so expensive. So generative AI really is changing the game in that front. The second part is the emotions. How do we do this? We have live edge-based tracking. This already happens on the client side, and we're currently working on bringing audio sentiment analysis into the pipeline as well. But right now, it's just visual. And this is really important that this happens locally on the device, because we don't want to be processing everyone's emotional state, because this is a very important private thing. And eventually, we want all of this to be done locally on the edge. The second part, the next part is the automatic speech recognition. We love the guys at DeepGram. What they're doing is incredible. Like, the latency they've achieved is amazing. There are a few open source options now that have the same or very similar latency, but their quality is really good. And it all comes down to this data set and dialect. So really, really exciting. And this technology now is just so mature. It's really, really enabling so much. Then you have the LLMs. And this space is just moving so fast. You know, like a year ago, I think there's a mistake here. Gemini 1 Pro, I think it was more than 32,000. But you guys get the idea. Gemini 1.5 Pro, up to 10 million context in the research paper, 1 million today in production. That's the equivalent of the Bible, having the Bible in knowledge at all times, or even the Harry Potter books. 6 out of 7 Harry Potter books in memory, which is huge. But for a lot of companies, this might not be enough. They might need even more. So back to what I said earlier about the edge-based thing. We've seen Gemini sort of release a number of models recently, a bit later than everybody else. But the thing that's really interesting is that they're prioritizing the Nano model. Already, the Nano model is available on the new Samsung devices. And with the chipset deal they've done, there's a potential for all the new Samsung phones to come with Nano. And now with the deal they're doing with Apple, there's a potential for all new Apple phones to come with Nano. Nano being a small LLM that has half the performance for 50 times less GPU cost, or GPU flop requirement, which changes the game completely. It's not going to be able to answer the most complicated questions, but bringing that power from the cloud to the user, to the edge, it makes everything faster, more private, and it just really is changing everything. And when you look at like the actual compute and training required to train these models, it's no surprise, you know, everyone knows that over time we've gone from Moore's law of doubling down to a smaller time frame, and the models have got bigger and bigger and bigger. But now we're seeing that with the new Snapdragon Adreno chip and some of the other hardware that's being developed, we're only about 3.5 years behind data center. The data center machines that were readily available 3.5 years ago are like the same as the new chips that are being manufactured today. When you factor in the neural processing unit, the neural processing unit being the magic here. If you look at the flops in the GPU, you get nothing. But it's a different way of processing the data, and it's opening up so many possibilities. Interesting paper released last week from NVIDIA, measuring the context window. This paper is really worth a read. They look at ways, it's just very simple actually. They look at the needle in the haystack problem. They look at the metrics and benchmarks that people report for their LLM, and they give the general public a way to test and to measure if, in fact, you do have a 1 million token context window. And funnily, ChatGPT and the new Mistral model are the only two that actually perform as they're supposed to. Okay, now the next part, TTS. This problem is relatively solved, 11 Labs being seen as the leader in voice generation, with many other companies that are probably at the same quality level now, especially PlayHT and Resemble, very, very high quality. The video side, not so solved. The latency problem, very difficult to do. Our video generation actually has a latency of like less than half a second. And when you add in the whole pipeline, it's about 1 second for a response. And we're working on trying to get this even smaller again. But if you're using the Wi-Fi here, it'll be like 2 seconds. But it's still really good, much faster than HeyGen, DID, and some of the others that are better known in the market. And then, I guess, you know, say the context window of the Bible isn't enough for your organization, 1 million tokens, maybe you need more. There's this idea of RAG and memory. But this is changing very, very fast. Another research paper came out last week from Google. It's called Leave No Content Behind, Efficient Infinite Context Transformers with Infinity Attention. I think personally this is just call the paper Infinity Attention. They claim to have an infinite context window. If this passes peer review, and this is in fact true, this completely solves the RAG memory problem. We don't really need RAG and memory in the way we do today, and the latency and problems that come with it. If the paper is as written, that's the big if here, could change everything. Moving from, you know, transformers, attention is all you need, to this infinite attention. And eliminating the need for research approaches such as flash attention, which is a brilliant, brilliant research approach. And then the last piece, I guess, is APIs. Like I said earlier, more than 80% of the world's traffic is API-driven. If we have these emotive AIs that can understand us, whether they have a face, a voice, or they're text-based, if they can't connect to the world, it's a bit useless. It's just novelty. And OpenAI gets this, and this is why they have their big community project where anyone can build a GPT. Anyone can ask a GPT to connect to an API. Because this really is the key to making this work for humanity, in my opinion. So back to my 3 principles of making humanity first AI. First of all, we have emotional intelligence. Then we have edge-based privacy and security. And then the third piece is API utility. So what's next? Let's say we've got this, agents are here. Let's say you guys are on board. Where are the agents going to appear? Spatial computing is an obvious one. You know, like how many people here have tried the new headset? Anyone in the audience? A few people. Verdict? No. Fair enough. We'll move on from this one then. It's too big.
Feels like a dumbbell over here.
Oh, really? For real? Okay, well, I haven't personally tried it yet. But there's much smaller form factors coming out, like this small device that listens to all the conversations you have to give you context around your life and travels with you and is part of an extension of your memory that you can ask questions to at any time. And the Rabbit, of course, is a more visual version of this. And I think that this idea is really exciting and could be here to stay, because the hardware we have today just isn't there. But that's my point earlier about edge-based compute. If mobile phones continue to have more GPU power and models continue to get smaller, perhaps they converge. To be decided. And then, of course, there's drug discovery and how AI can be used in a very personal way. There's lots and lots of research here. But I won't go into this too much because I want to save some time for questions. And of course, then there's on-brain compute, the ultimate human-AI interaction. And you know, if Elon gets his way, perhaps we'll all be connected to Grok. I'm not entirely sure if I like that, but it could be very interesting. And this paper actually is a very interesting paper. I read papers every week. Sunday is my paper reading day. Almost religiously, I'll read at least 1 paper a week. And I need to start a blog, actually. My investors keep telling me to start a blog. I always have these long conversations and argue about things with them, but I need to put this in the blog. So watch this space. There will be one soon. This particular paper looks at how you could use It's described as quantum-enabled brain control, but it's not really quantum, to move a prosthetic based on brain signals. And I guess the big problem here is that you have a latency getting from the body to the device. This paper claims to have gone halfway to solving that, but it's an interesting idea. So I invite you to chat face-to-face. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I can send you the demo. We welcome anyone to have a play and to interact with the avatars. We've not made it available in public release yet because there's a number of exciting things happening. But if you speak to me, you will be able to try it out. And very, very soon, you might be able to get it from one of the big 5 tech providers. So watch that space. You might be able to deploy with one click from a major cloud provider. That's just a maybe. So I open the floor to questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So do we have any questions? I'll come over. Actually,
thank you. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Very insightful. I really enjoyed it. So, quick question for you. So, ultimate goal here will be to get to the level that human can discern if it's machine or real person. Then, do you think there's any not technological, but social, resistance in that? I mean, maybe you need to reveal that you are speaking to a machine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt, I think everything that's AI generated should be labeled. And I'm part of a few groups. One actually with the Resemble guys. That's about content authenticity. And I think it's really important that people are transparent about this type of stuff. And it's a part of our terms and conditions. And if we see someone using the technology to try and deceive people, or kick them out, But there is a very real concern that this could happen, especially with the elections coming up. There's a lot of talk about it, and it's a very, very big concern. But I think right now the tech that's generally available is quite far away from being indiscernible from humans. You require quite a lot of training data for most approaches to make something indiscernible. Even with our 30-second approach, if you give it infinite amounts of data, it still produces a certain level. Gaussian splatting and sort of NeRFs have gotten us quite far, but you require such high quality data set to make a compelling deepfake today. And I think that will probably be the same. Single shot and few shot approaches are developing fast, especially in the audio space. You're really seeing the pinnacle of audio now. But I'd like to think that in the same way that audio hasn't resulted in mass scams everywhere just yet, that the same would happen with video. I'll try and keep all the answers short and moving forward, sorry.
You said something about, there were examples. This is definitely a game changer. There's no question about the interaction and the level this is going to take us to. There was something you mentioned about the use case with insurance.
Yes.
That had me thinking, right? Because with policies, it could be health insurance, it could be auto insurance. I recently had a scrape. At some point, you're going to want to talk to a human. It feels like there's a transition right now. Where are you seeing this today? And where are you seeing the adoption at this point? And is it truly going to work? Or is it going to take some time?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the use case. We're seeing the most adoption in learning and development departments because the risk of having an avatar train your staff and do role plays with your staff is much lower than having one out in the wild talking to customers. When you have a system in the wild, you want to have control over it. But things like insurance premiums are really, really good because you will spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour on a call to buy business insurance. And someone will take you for a checklist of answers, questions, and you have to answer, and they're literally just typing out your answers. And they do that because getting someone to fill in the form is just nearly impossible. It's such a long form, you need the human interaction to get past to get through the process. And I think that audio-visual could massively, I'm seeing it improve that particular space, especially with people with car insurance. We have one company in Oman that's using this around car insurance because a huge number of people are underinsured, or they're on like third-party premiums, which are like a fraction of the price of your own premium. So like it makes sense to take people on an interactive, immersive journey because you can get much more data, much richer insights. The same for medicine, like medical triage. There's a limited number of expert doctors in the world. If you could free up the expert doctors to be experts, and you could have these avatars ask all the medical triage questions, you could garner more data because the nurse is just rushing them through. The nurse wants the next person as quickly as possible because everyone's working to a metric. And I think also in retail, I'm seeing lots of discussions. I'm not doing much in retail yet, but lots of discussions around the idea of, could we use this for upselling and cross-selling? Because a mobile phone operator, call center, like Telefonica O2, it costs them $3 per minute to have their call center running. So it's expensive when people call up. And if they can get you off the phone as quickly as possible, they save money. So it's all about how do I solve the problem as quickly as possible. But with this service, we bill it at like 40 cents per minute right now as a starting place. It could go down to pennies. It is the world's most efficient model. You can learn about the customer. You can ask the customer about their weekend. You can build a relationship. And you can find out about products and services that you could sell them later on. And humans just don't have that time capacity. So I've given you like 3 or 4 different examples there, but I hope that's helpful for everybody. I think I'm being summoned off the stage now, so thank you.
Not so quickly, but thank you so much, really. Round of applause, please.